the Federal Reserve is not federal. It's just the title of a corporation, of a company owned by the richest names in history, in our society, for certain. And they've been the richest names for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And this plan, to control the money supply was put in place by them literally centuries ago. And so the Federal Reserve is the culmination of setting up a new era of this kind of domination. And they got the United States, the new world, this Constitution, which was inspired, and they said, it doesn't matter. Even with the Constitution, you control the money supply and you control the nation. And that's exactly what they've done. So we're $39 trillion in debt now. The government has the capacity to print its own money. Why is it in debt to a corporation? There is no answer to that, and no politician will ever address it. Maybe besides like Ron Pauls, right? The people who are the outliers and who have been branded insane. But those are the only people who dare talk about it, because the Federal Reserve is the power, is the money. They own DC. They've integrated all the major corporations. They are the major corporations, period. You don't get into that seat without the stamp of the Federal Reserve, and that's a fact. Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm honored to be joined by Jeff Hayes. His pen name is Michael Thomas Hayes. He is in the ongoing process of penning a tremendous expose series called Rise of the New World Order. The first two books are out. I believe he is knee deep in finishing the third book, which I'm going to try to get to talk to him about too. He's an avid researcher. His books have connected so many dots for me. I was just telling him this, about the true history going back to King Nimrod, and, which that name is constantly coming up in my comment section. And just meticulous research and tying ancient history to Bible study to this miasma of modern politics that we're all looking at right now. And I say this all the time, and I know Jeff agrees with me, without knowledge of true history, you cannot understand or begin to understand modern society. And it will be that if we are led back into, the dark ages of despondence and oppression, it's going to be because we did not wise up to our true history. I say that often, and I know that Jeff agrees with me. So without further ado, thank you for beaming in, Jeff. This is the first podcast Jeff's given in a couple of years, actually. So I'm very excited and honored.
Yeah, it's great to be here, brother, Faust. Yeah, it's been at least 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4 years since I've done any kind of interview stuff. I just kind of hunkered down, the pandemic and all that stuff. I was putting out little update reports for that whole thing, just calling the shots and trying to let people know what was going on and what was coming. I am working on this third book of the series, and I'm probably I hope to have it out in about 3 or 4 months, hopefully. Nice. So it's dang close. I haven't had a new book out since 2015, so it's been it's 7 or 8 years since I've put something out. But a lot of stuff happened in the meantime.
Oh my God. Just a few things.
Between the pandemic stuff, but after I got my second book out, it's almost like I knew this pandemic stuff was coming. I could feel it. So I actually uprooted my whole family, moved my family about 80 miles due east of where I was living. I lived about 30 miles east of Seattle. Since I've moved about 80 miles even further east over the Cascade Mountains over into like red state country, because that's what's coming. Be around people who have guns, who know how to use them. Fair and good country folks. I moved into.
I had the same idea. I wish I had done it sooner, but I had the same idea. I took my family.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass, but man, it was financially crushing, and my work is all screwed up. But at least I got my family into where I would consider a much safer place. I live next to an on-ramp on I-90. Not far out of Seattle, so when the zombie apocalypse, they're out there walking up and down I-90. I mean, I'm just right over the fence. So I'm like, we gotta get out of this particular. So if we're moving all, we're getting the hell out of here. So
I hear you, dude. I did the same thing. I was stuck in New York City, of all places. I was like,
oh man,
so upset about it, and because and I have 2 kids, and exactly, escape from New York. I was walking. The moment curfew would hit, because there was a 10 o'clock curfew, I would I would just walk out of my house and start walking around the streets and being like, this city is so fucking confused. So confused. My God. You know what I mean? Like, how did you get I thought this was a gritty city. I thought we were up all night, the city that never sleeps. I was like walking the streets. It was like a ghost town. And I'm like, I just was ready to just start yelling at people. Like, what is wrong with everyone? Like, do you think the air is going to hurt you?
Anyway. Because they're not out after curfew or whatever.
Right. And then, it was a mess, man. It was a total mess. I don't even want to get into that. What a shit show. It's very apparent now, I think, to a lot of people who maybe refuse to see, because it's hard for people to see past, the fear and that's why they work so diligently in creating that fear, because, any critical thinking kind of goes out the window. They know that. But
much easier to control people when they're scared. They want to be saved. They want to help me, government.
They will follow the leader. I mean, it's just that simple. It's kind of in our biology in a lot of ways. Especially in a little bit of a panic. We're just like, who's going where? We just kind of start running with whoever's leading the pack. But man, I saw that. It's funny because you are not the first guest on this show who I've heard talk about how Zeitgeist was kind of their opening. Fantastic documentary. A bit. There's some things in it that I think have dated themselves, but not many. It's a very eye-opening documentary, filled with some very fascinating, facts and theories and truths about things that went down. And I heard you say that was one of the things that kind of blew your mind. And I was like, man, another one. That's so cool.
That was because that was when the cat was kind of coming out of the box in like 2007, 2006. The internet was still basically free. Google wasn't co-opted. Mm-hmm. Alex Jones was rising. All of a sudden, people started putting out all these documentaries about the New World Order. And someone kept putting that up on the Seattle Craigslist for Hits and Raves. It's just like a soapbox you get up on. And finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
Freaking blew my mind. I was like, wow, especially the 9/11 stuff. I was just like, and the Federal Reserve stuff went over my head at the time because I was tripped out about the 9/11 stuff. Like Building 7, I didn't even heard a third skyscraper fell, that no plane had hit. That just floored me. And from there, I just dove in and never looked back, man. I just want to know everything about what's going on. And
that's awesome. What a journey. What an eye opener. Look, a lot of people, they dig their heels in when they start to hear information like that. But there's kind of a few of us who really kind of begin to look at things and like, that's not a coincidence. You know what I mean? There's something way off here. And instead of like me going back into my putting my head in the sand and kind of going back to my life, like, I want to know what the hell's going on. Is this possible? And so it takes a certain kind of person to do that, and you did it. So
yeah, a lot of people, you start talking to them about this stuff, and they shut right down. They're like, oh, sure, I'll look into that. No intention of looking into it at all. You're just a crazy conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah.
Eyes glaze over. They started looking around. This conversation is going to be over soon, I hope.
Yeah, exactly. And but I mean, I'm glad I know what I know. No, I'd rather know than not know, because I wish I had known about this stuff way earlier in my life, because I would have lived a whole entirely different life. I wouldn't have been. Yeah. I used to screw around the stock market. I used to just do all kinds of stuff. Now I'm like, it's just no wonder I lost all my money.
Well, it rearranges your perspective and your priority.
Yes. Hold on, man.
Things
like I probably would have had kids if I'd have known this. I love my kids to death, but if I'd have known this stuff before I went down that road, I probably wouldn't have had kids, because I got a really crappy feature. But that was a big motivator for me to make that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a huge motivator for me to write that book. I'm like, you're messing with me and my family. I'm coming after you guys.
No, I hear you.
So that's part of the point of the book. Just trying to build a big something to blow up in their face. So we'll see what happens.
The more people who can contribute to the consciousness that needs to expand, to the knowledge that needs to expand into this co-consciousness that we all share. There's no small contribution, because if everyone thought, well, it's not going to be me who changes the world would never change. It's usually not one person, it's a whole movement, right? And so, I'm glad you had kids, because that really pisses them off. They don't want anyone to have kids. And B, I have kids as well, and I teach my kids a little bit every day, especially my 11-year-old, about the truth of this world. And I'm like, dude, and I tell them, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this so you can walk through this world like Neo in the Matrix, so that you know how to protect yourself, and they can't deceive you and they can't scare you. I am creating in you someone who people are going to probably follow, and you don't have to do anything but be you, but you're going to know the truth. You're going to be able to see right through the bullshit, so that you're not going to be confused about what action to take. So I'm, God willing, my 9-year-old feels like listening to me for more than 30 seconds at some point in his life. But, dude, I mean, you have this great quote in your book that I want to read, because this is a reason why I think people have so much trouble. You have this quote by J. Edgar Hoover. The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. The American mind simply has not come to a realization of the evil which has been introduced into our midst. That's what happens. That's what's going on right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
a lot of people have been killed for that, for speaking out like that.
I know. And J. Edgar Hoover, he wasn't exactly the most, J. Edgar Hoover he was playing both sides of the field in more ways than one.
Probably was from earlier in his career, and then they co-opted him, teaching him how to cross-dress and all this other stuff. I understand.
They certainly got
pulled into the system. Yeah, they got him pulled into the system, and that's part of the big
money,
like the Epstein Island stuff. They get compromised movie star politicians with underage kids. They videotape them, and that's all on record. And they say, if you don't play ball, we're gonna ruin you. So they all play ball.
That's right. That's it. And these tactics go way back, which you also talk about in your book, and I thought that was very fascinating. But let's take it back a little bit, because I mentioned this in my intro. People always want to know, like, people think they know when this started, and what I'm realizing is that even with all the research that I've done and all the books that I've read, this goes back even further than even I imagined. You talk about King Nimrod, and how pervasive that name is throughout this. I want to call it like the abdication of all the secret society, the secret societies, and just the New World Order, the whole movement, the Great Plan, as it was once called. And they are always switching branding. Now it's the Great Reset, but it's kind of it's the same idea. It's the same thing. We see it over and over, and they've never been able to quite keep quiet about what their agenda is. But people don't understand how far back this goes. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how, like King Nimrod. People always want to comment. They're like, how like it goes back to Nimrod, and I'm like, who? And now I'm learning about just how far back that goes. And so I'm wondering if you want to, can you talk a little bit about King Nimrod and how he plays into the beginning of this, the origin story of this?
Yeah. So I get this in my second book, but basically, the Great Plan was set in motion about 6,000 years ago when mankind was first put together, whether it was, Adam and Eve or other humans were put here or whatever, but it was the clock and for it was set in motion about 6,000 years ago, but it didn't really get put into a organized occult plan until Nimrod, and he knew what was going on the whole time. So he put the Great Plan together, which is basically the secret societies run society, and there's just a handful of people, and there's always initiation. You got to get into it to learn the real truth. But since he's credited as the first one to organize this whole thing, and the ultimate goal of the Great Plan is for man to man to become immortal, to become a god on earth. So his plan was to take a sample of his DNA, which is Johnson. They mummified it. I think they kept it in Egypt, but eventually and I think it's already happened. I think he's already back alive physically. They knew way for 4,200 years ago that eventually mankind would be advanced scientifically enough where they could take your DNA and replicate you physically and basically bring you back from the dead. So you could live forever that way. The big kicker is trying to break your soul out of the abyss or out of the other dimension or whatever, put that into the newly created human body. But they can do that through their occult practices, and obviously Satan has a big hand in all that supernatural stuff. But he's the one. He's the one. Like Christmas, Easter, Lent, Halloween, Valentine's Day, all of the holidays everybody celebrates, think they're based on Jesus and all this other stuff. It's actually all came from King Nimrod, and they are all dedications to the existence and the legacy of King Nimrod.
And you go through in detail. We could spend like 2 hours just laying out the details of the facts behind what he just stated. So I can't spend that much time on it. But if you check out his first book and you read the true origins of these holidays, which look, we all of us kind of grow up celebrating. We don't, just like people 2,000 years ago grew up celebrating. It may not have been called Christmas then, but they celebrated the winter solstice the same way. And it's not to take anything, away from Jesus or his birthday, whenever it may have been. But you know what I'm saying? Like all these holidays come from something, right? And it's not what we've been told. And so it's fascinating that the correlation and the links you've directly tied to Nimrod, because I would have never known the things that I read in your book about. It's literally like right on the nose. Sometimes is like Nimrod. Which, how did Nimrod come to mean, moron in our modern day English language?
The deception to lead is like a red herring. Hold on. No, he was a genius. He was the first Nephilim after the flood.
That's right. And you were saying in your book, you said that because we know now Graham Hancock just put out a series on Netflix. I think they were starting to worry that their ratings were falling off and they were losing customers for the first time. So they started to do things a bit more fringy, right? And they got Graham Hancock on there, who I love. He's a journalist who writes and talks about archaeology, but of course he's not bound to the academic power structure, which keeps people from the truth, is basically what it's there for. He's like, look, 10,000 years ago, there was a massive flood, and it didn't happen like, oh, there's a story. It happened all at once, and the earth flooded, and like, here's the proof. And then all these, so you have the civilizations that were before and then after the flood, right? And you see all the giant monuments that were built after the flood. There's a loss of technology. There's a great, things were not what they were before. It's fascinating, but we know there was a flood, and I know that somehow this ties into Nimrod and the new societies that had popped up, all over the earth. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because it was, I was reading, I was like, damn, I never would have considered
that. So before the floods, the Nephilim, the half gods, half humans, they populated the entire earth, as far as I'm concerned. And so somehow there was some kind of a global cataclysmic event, whether or not it was a giant flood, or somehow the interdimensionals, I call them. People call them aliens or
ETs,
angels or whatever. Or they cleanse the earth using like a neutron bomb or whatever. But somehow they were able to reset life on Earth because the pre-flood Nephilim had corrupted the DNA. They were merging heat with animals, which is a huge no-no from the creator. And then look what we're doing today with the DNA stuff. I mean, they're probably doing just abominable stuff in the Black Ops underground labs.
And in China.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and in China. Oh, yeah. Growing human ears on backs of mice. I mean, just all kinds of, literally, anyone taking that ear and grafting it to a human. And like my grandma, who's long gone now, but I mean, for her to live, they put a pig valve in her heart. And I'm like, I wouldn't have never agreed to that. If it was my time to go, you're not putting a part of a pig in me, or just stuff like that. But I mean, all the giant structures in South America, the Aztec temples and stuff, I think all that stuff was built after the flood, but not by man, by the Nephilim, who are descended from Nimrod, the Rephaim, which means the descendants of Saturn. And Saturn, if you read my second book, Saturn is literally the biblical Satan. And I've got a bunch of theories I'm working on about the Babylonian mystery religion as to whether or not the female was actually Satan in the flesh on earth who gave birth to Nimrod. And that's how you got back with the half god, half man bloodline restarting. That'll be in a fourth book I've got coming up way down the road. But basically the Nephilim came back after the flood and they spread back out over the earth. And then and so the humans that came over like the land bridge to come into North America, they fought these giants to the death because the giants were actually cannibals, highly evil. That's where the legend of Bigfoot comes from. Those were the old, and they're supposed to be red. They're all red, always red hair. But that's where the legend like Bigfoot comes on. Those are just the Rephaim that came over pre-humans. So I don't know. It's fascinating, terrifying stuff when you really start to cogitate on the ramifications of all the stuff that's gone on. And
so, do you think that's what the giant bones are? That the Smithsonian tries to pretend like they don't?
Yes,
the mound like builders. They didn't lose.
Yes. Oh, and all the newspaper articles, some lady.
Oh my God! I mean, like.
Yes, so those funny. Are the Rephaim.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and the 7, 8, 9, 10 foot tall skeletons with copper armor and stuff they found in all they call them the mound builders too.
Yeah,
and they completely suppressed all that. There's a book called "The Ancient Giants Who Ruled North America" by a guy who worked for HBO. He put that book out. That is a phenomenal read, Faust. You got to read that.
I'll check it out.
That has all the newspaper articles, printings of them.
Wow.
And this guy works for HBO. He's a mainstream documentary guy, but it's called the Ancient Giants Who Ruled North America. I highly recommend that, but it'll blow your mind.
Wow.
I was like reading it.
I'm going to check it out. I have one book on it that's pretty fascinating. It goes through and it kind of meticulously details all the mentions, and the studies and like the times the archaeologists were like, okay, well, we found this and we can't explain it, and then how the bones were literally found and, given to the Smithsonian, which of course is a way to give them away to be hidden forever. And
totally.
Dude, how synchronistic is it?
They want to suppress that stuff because that's for proof of the Bible being correct, because the Bible talks about all these giants. Where's the proof? Where's the bones? Oh, the Smithsonian took them all away. And those are just the ones in North America. The rest of the ones around Europe and all that stuff were confiscated a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they were digging up new stuff in the new country and finding all these giant bones. And they're like, oh, we got to put a cap on this real quick. And so they did. But in that book, man, amazing.
Yeah, dude. I talk about this all the time. And I was talking to this podcaster 2 days ago, and he was like, dude, when he got arrested at the January 6th event. I'm not going to call it an insurrection because that would be foolishness. But so they're throwing the book at him. I mean, he did smoke a joint in the Capitol building, but
my hero right there.
Yeah, right. So, but he was like, dude, I came up for sentencing, and the guy was like, Your Honor, this man is a threat to society. And he's like, the judge was like, why? And he's like, because he had gone through all his YouTube videos, right? And he said, first of all, he believes that the Smithsonian is hiding giant bones. And I'm like, they are. Either they're hiding or they lost them. What's the difference? You know what I mean? They claim they lost them. You know what I mean? I was like, what's the difference? And they were like, he all these, do you believe all those things? He was like, yeah. And they gave him, like, I think they put him in jail for 6 months. But it's so funny that this judge that was given this information to show how this guy is a danger to society because he has videos about giant bones being hidden by the Smithsonian. I was like, dude, they're throwing the book at you no matter what. If they had to use giant bones to do it, they were going to do it. But all you guys were scapegoated, you know that. And he was like, yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised there's no legislation that's come out of that criminalizing just putting conspiracy, quote unquote, conspiracy theories out.
They're trying. They're trying.
Totally. Yes.
And they're being met with resistance because they have to play within their partisan system, and their partisan system is the people in D.C. for the most part are just about as ignorant as you can get with most things. You know what I mean? I mean they're paid to be ignorant. They're so most of them truly are clueless in so many ways.
High level ones like the Clintons. A lot of them, they are part of these secret societies.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
About the great plan, they are fully in on it.
When you were talking about the Antichrist, I was like, you mean Hillary, right? No, I'm just kidding. No, but she's probably right at the right-hand side of whoever it is.
You just got on the list, mouse.
Whatever. I don't even care. I'm not trying to. But dude, people. I mean, I say this all the time. I'm like, you understand that the word Hillary wasn't just people weren't just playing with consonants. Like it was. There's a reason why people nicknamed her that. Those people knew what had been going on since Bill was governor of Arkansas. They knew. Many of them lived in Arkansas and then saw what the Clintons did. You know what Bill Clinton's last act, one of his last acts as governor of Arkansas was? He changed the law so that in Arkansas, at least, he knew this was going to be important as he transitioned to bigger and broader things. He changed the law so that autopsies were no longer they were no longer mandatory if there was any suspicion of a crime. It could be decided upon. Whereas before, by procedural, law, they had to be autopsied if there was any kind of suspicion. And he changed that law. I think he knew he was going to be leaving, and there might be many cases where, if we could just opt out of the autopsy, it would be better for everyone involved.
Yes. Yeah. That's the first time I heard that, but I don't doubt it one bit, Bird.
It's crazy. You can't make this up. I mean, like literally, that's one of the last things he did as governor. I was surprised he didn't try to do it nationally. I'm laughing, but it's terrible.
He did some horrific stuff as governor, man. I watched the interview with the lady he raped when he was governor, and oh my God, the same one that Trump brought to the debate with Hillary. He brought, I can't remember her name, but she just retold this horrible tale of how he raped her and stuff. But Trump brought. Now I'm not a big Trump guy because I'm on the fence about Trump.
Yeah, me too.
You got everybody at that level. But it was really heart wrenching to hear her tell her story. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Was to hear, but I was like, that mother effer.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm in the same boat with Trump. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like
did some good stuff.
He did.
Pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Could pull us out of the TPP, but at the same time, he launched Operation Warp Speed,
Space Force.
Space Force. What was the other one? Federal Reserve is still in place. Nothing. Didn't raise a finger against them. Don't do 9/11 investigation. I mean, all this stuff I would have instantly done, or Ron Paul would have done if he was not ever getting in there. I was a big Ron Paul guy.
Yeah,
that was part of my awakening. Was Ron Paul's like, why do the political establishment hate this guy so much?
Oh, they hate him.
But he knows he hates the Federal Reserve. All this stuff. So they painted him as a maniac, but he is Mr. Constitution.
He's a rare breed, man. They don't make him like him anymore. And if he wasn't such a public figure, totally fearless. I mean, at this point, it's like, it's just, we do live in a world behind a veil of information that is almost constantly being, synthesized to control the public, to prep the public, to propagandize the public into, for example, a year ago, you heard the dementia in chief saying there's going to be food shortages. And then you heard that echoed Trudeau and all the other puppets, there's going to be, they just want everyone to know there's going to be food shortages. I'm like, how can they look into the future and know we have this massive supply chain? You know what I mean? Like, why would there be food shortages? And why are you telling us about it now? How do you know? You know what I mean? Because they were going to create them. Because I tell people, like, they listen, you can't have a new world order if the old one is functioning just fine. Okay. You need to screw things up. This is like common sense 101. You got to understand that's what these people are masters at. They play both sides of every conflict, every coin, every war. It doesn't matter. You know, they know how to keep the ball rolling. They've gotten very good at it. But, you know, you've come into a lot of information even through all this, right? And I have as well. And people ask me all the time, like, how did you find out? How did you learn this? And I'm like, meticulous research. I mean, read. You got to read. Books are one of the last places, you know?
Yep. Most people are just walking through life with blinders. You know, you got to get your eyes open, ears open. Got to entertain every option and then cross-reference and check out what other people think, what are the facts, right down the line. So it's a constant battle trying to wait, because I'm sure the agents of the NWO are putting out as much misinformation as possible. Also, to muddy up the water, to discredit the actual truth movement and all that stuff. So,
yeah,
it's a constant battle.
It's this. You really need a solid kind of foundation to sift through and discern the level, because they're really good at it. I mean, this is what people don't understand. You know, they know how to sprinkle like that one thing that's gonna resonate true, and then sprinkle like bullshit all over it. You know, and people just hear that one thing and they're like, well, I know that has to be true. That makes perfect sense, and then they accept the bullshit. And I'm just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be, you have to be able to step back and really look at things, and you just can't take anything for granted. But, you know, where do you, as you get further and further into this censored world we live in, where true information is much harder to find, you know, especially if you're trying to go back, as we kind of continue to rewrite history and make it into this fantasy, and then teach our young people that this is the world. You know, how do you continue to discover and uncover? You know, do you hit the library? Do you, like, what would you tell someone who really wants to know where to find this information? You know, where should they start?
I don't like to promote it, but Facebook is an outstanding. If you get in with a group of truthers, because on any of these social media things, people want to be the first to get the truth to the masses, or the big story out. I mean, I get on Facebook, I'm getting breaking news faster than NBC's putting it out, which I just have I had 2 accounts with 5,000 friends. They both got blown out of the water. So now I'm back on Facebook. I got like 250 friends. I'm not allowed to post any memes, no pictures. I can't even have a profile picture. But I was able to hook up. I just grabbed myself a couple 300 truther friends, and I got all the info, more than enough info coming in about what's really going on in the world, man. But you got to get in with the people who are hungry for the truth, who are not afraid to speak their mind. But it's real easy to find them by their profile pictures. You get the 9/11 truth profile pictures, or the shove your injection up your ass profile picture. You know, and all those are the people you want to be friends with, because they're the ones that are cutting through the BS and trying to spread the real truth around. So
and then there's a lot of groups like that. You do got to be careful, because there's always misinformation going around. You know, I mean, even among truther groups. So you have to be able to discern, you know, what's what. Even intelligence agents have to deal with misinformation that's deliberately put in front of them to keep them, you know, first of all, to weed out people who are going to be talking to people they shouldn't, and also to weed out people who don't understand what part of what can be fake. I mean, like, if you read William Cooper's books, Bill Cooper, the infamous, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, you know that this is part of the process, right?
Totally. I don't agree with everything Bill Cooper put in the
me either, but there's a lot of information in there
for sure. Yes.
And that's the thing. You can't take one person's word or account. Even someone like Bill, who worked in intelligence, you know, right in the heart of intelligence in the early 50s, he worked for the naval intelligence. They were getting all the good stuff then, right? But even he tells you gotta confirm and go through and cross-reference, and you got to find ways to connect the dots. You cannot take any one person's word for it, because they may be misinformed about something that's important. So I always tell people.
That's why I say the very start of my first book, I'm like, don't believe everything I say out of hand, but don't discredit it either without looking into what I'm saying. So I try to, that when I put that book there, that was back before the Google guys got co-opted, so you could really dig into the good stuff. You can try to search some of the stuff now for my book, and you're digging back 10, 20, 30 pages, maybe, to try to find out some of this stuff. So I'm so glad I got that first book out when I did.
Yeah, man. I had the Google whistleblower on my podcast, the guy who, the biggest one. Yeah. Yeah, he's.
Yep.
But he told me all about that. What a shit show. It was just,
Those guys were worth so much money. They couldn't let them. They weren't allowed to. And the Google's getting so off that the Illuminati, quote unquote, they were not allowed to just roam free anymore. They reined them in, filled them in as what's going on. Fill them in as what's going to happen if you don't play ball. And they're like, okay, I guess for him,
that's it. Then they pretend like the rest of them, like they're righteous, like they lie right in front of Congress. They're like, we're not censoring anyone. We don't know what you're talking about. Someone like Voorhees, downloads 900 pages of proof of how they lied in front of Congress. Are there repercussions? No, of course not. There hasn't been repercussions for the corporate elite since the industrial age. Period. There really isn't. Not in America. No, not here.
And even that wasn't really. Breaking apart Standard Oil, all that did was help them. Now instead of one multi-trillion-dollar company, you got 5 or 6.
Much
they didn't really
to hide. Much easier to hide.
Want to make good press? It made them look good. Oh, we took them apart. Now he's got 6 multinational global corporations to take over the oil industry instead of just one.
It over and over, the same tricks.
All the spin, man.
Yeah, it's the same tricks, dude. And people don't realize, they know how to market something as the exact opposite of what it is, and they know what people are afraid of. They know what will reach people, so just like the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was founded, they had this brilliantly diabolical plan. First of all, they were going to slip it through, but they were going to pretend like they were like they were objecting to it, right? And that this was going to hurt the banks. So the people would think, oh, well, this is good then. If it's going to put the banks, put their ass to the fire, that must be good for us. They knew that they could seize on that sentiment of the people, and that's how they kind of confused and misinformed the public into allowing the Federal Reserve. Not that they were going to wait for permission, because of course they weren't, but they always know they have to get the majority of public opinion on board with them, because if everyone stops cooperating, then it can't work, period. You have to get people to volunteer, and they know that. So it's the thing.
Totally. They've been engineering us. They've been engineering our society for thousands of years. Well, a couple of years before the Federal Reserve vote came up, they were intentionally causing disruptions in the financial markets. They were causing all these problems, and then offering the solution. Oh, well, we're having all these financial problems with the banks. All this. Here's the answer. Turn over all the power to this.
We will stabilize everything. We'll close the class. The gap in the class structure.
Control inflation. There'll be no inflation. There'll be no more ups and down cycles. Oh, man.
For everyone who's listening who doesn't understand the implications of what we're talking about, and the amount of damage that it's done, the United States government has the power to print its own money, its own currency. It is within its rights to do so. And why wouldn't it do so? Then it could loan itself money without interest. What was our debt last time we checked? $39 trillion. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It's just the title of a corporation, of a company owned by the richest names in history, in our society, for certain. And they've been the richest names for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And this plan, to control the money supply was put in place by them literally centuries ago. And so the Federal Reserve is the culmination of setting up a new era of this kind of domination. And they got the United States, the new world, this Constitution, which was inspired, and they said it doesn't matter. Even with the Constitution, you control the money supply and you control the nation. And that's exactly what they've done. So we're $39 trillion in debt now. The government has the capacity to print its own money. Why is it in debt to a corporation? There is no answer to that, and no politician will ever address it. Maybe besides like Ron Pauls, right? The people who are the outliers and who have been branded insane, but those are the only people who dare talk about it, because the Federal Reserve is the power, is the money. They own DC. They've integrated all the major corporations. They are the major corporations, period. You don't get into that seat without the stamp of the Federal Reserve, and that's a fact. And that's the world we live in. You got to take the money out of politics if you want there to be any kind of transparency and true government for the people. That's my.
And that's why they put it in the Constitution to start with. It is the Federal Reserve is an illegal entity. If you were to go before the Supreme Court and have them judge on it, they would overwhelmingly have to judge it an illegal entity, because only the Congress shall have the power to print money. It says it right in the Constitution. And Thomas Jefferson said back then, if we, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's basically, if we, the American public, ever allow the power of the money to fall into private hands, the institutions and corporations that will grow up around this private bank will deprive your children of the continent they conquered.
It's
kind of a brutal quote, but I mean, when this big crash comes, I mean, the dollars are going to chase themselves back to the origin, which is the Federal Reserve. So yeah, they own us, and the Federal Reserve is wholly or not is mostly owned by foreigners. It mostly by people in Europe and Israel. It's not. It's owned in the U.S. by there's like 9 or 10 corporations that own the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private for-profit corporation. If anybody doesn't know, Goldman Sachs is one of the owners in the United States. I think Lehman Brothers was the other U.S. owner, but like the other 8 are located in Europe and Israel. So our economy and country is basically controlled by foreigners. That is the bottom line.
That's right, and
we owe most of the money to.
Yeah, and
it's horrifying.
It's not like it's ever getting paid off. That's, people don't understand.
No.
The Federal Reserve was created, to create debt, and it's working. Obviously, it's working very well. People are like, oh, well, the system's broken. No. The system isn't broken. People's brains are broken. They're not taught about this deliberately. They have no idea how banking works. And the Federal Reserve is working perfectly. I mean, it's literally, it's a dream, and they knew it would work. And they make sure that there's always something to keep it working, like, I don't know, a pandemic, a war, they play the long game, these people. And that's another reason why it's so hard for people to connect the dots, because if you don't know your history, you don't know the long games that they play. They're not in it to short the stock. They're in it for the long haul. They're going to own everything. They tell you that you're going to own nothing and be happy, and they're going to own everything and be even happier.
You will eat the bugs.
Yeah. You'll eat the bugs.
Eat the bugs.
So there's a couple of things I want to cover with you, while I have you on. So, I mean, first of all, what I read about Washington D.C. and the reason why it was formed in your book, and I always wondered, like, why did they make this little area into its own state? Why did the District of Columbia get kind of, I don't know what the word is, annexed from the rest of Virginia, right? And the country. Like, what? So tell everyone the true history of that little move that they made and why they made it.
Well, so there's it's called the TriState Empire. So in the U.S. you have Washington D.C., which is, I don't know, what 10 square miles of land. It has its own constitution, its own police force. It is literally not part of the USA. It is its own little city-state, basically. And that is representative of the military power of the New World Order. And you have the same thing in the city of London. you have the same thing. You have a city-state within London that's not part of Great Britain. It's its own city-state, and that is the financial. And you have the military is in Washington, D.C., the financials in City of London, and the religious aspect of it is in Vatican City. That is also a city-state that is not part of Italy. And so that's like the TriState Empire.
Right,
you have religious control to the Catholics, which is the biggest branch of Christianity, which is by default. I mean, everybody follows the Catholic tradition. That's where Christmas and all this stuff got injected into Christianity. So you have the religious control, financial control, military control. That Tri-State Empire runs the world, man.
Wow.
That's like the Illuminati control structure, and it all just flows downhill from there.
Wow.
With them up at the top capstone, man. There's a really good documentary, Faust. It's called it's like 6 or 7 hours, but it's a multi-part thing. It's called The Empire of the City. If you ever get a chance to watch that is a really good one. But it talks about the 9/11 stuff, and this really cool lady with a really cool voice narrates the whole thing. But it's that was one of the early documentaries, along with the Zeitgeist I watched. It's called The Empire of the City. It's about the Tri-State Empire control system. Well, it's a long one. But it's really, really, really
wow.
good.
Definitely gonna watch it. I wrote it down. Oh, that's awesome, dude. I never even tied that together. You know, the fact that the Vatican has its own city, DC has the City of London. Why? What is the common denominator there? We know that those are the centers of corruption in the world. I mean, that those three are the most. You know, yeah. I mean, God, that's fascinating. I never even tied that together. Interesting, man. So you were an atheist. This is mind blowing to me. You were an atheist who really started down this rabbit hole, and now you've come into, you know, I don't want to call you a Christian, but maybe you consider yourself a Christian. I don't think you're definitely not Catholic. I'm a recovering Catholic.
Everybody says that. My best friend's a recovering Catholic, but he's got horror stories about it on by the priest.
My God, I was an altar boy for 8 years too.
So was he.
Unbelievable.
Yep. No, he almost went through that. So I was a hardcore atheist pretty much all my life until a couple of years after I woke up, because nobody could show me proof of any of that stuff at all. And I've always just been kind of a skeptic and stuff. But I woke up the New World Order and stuff, especially Zeitgeist is really an anti-Christian documentary. So that really resonated. I'm like, yeah, it's these damn Christians that are.
You were like, I know.
But the part about Christianity and Zeitgeist, all they're doing is telling the story of the Babylonian mystery religion without telling you about the actual Babylonian mystery religion. So a couple of years into my research, I just kept. I mean, I watched every documentary on YouTube, everything I could get my hands on to read, every interview, and I kept running into a brick wall with what, where did this great plan come from? Who's steering? It's got to be, it's got to be aliens. I always thought it was aliens, right? They're, human stuff. But once you really dig into it, and then I learned about the King Nimrod stuff and how powerful he was. He was ran the first world government. All our holidays are dedicated to him. He started the secret society. So once I started finding all that out, then I started researching all that, and that started blowing my mind. And so I would consider myself. And eventually, I went from being atheist to this will actually be the start of my third book. We'll be talking about my transfiguration, or the instant I decided that I wanted to be a team good guy, basically.
Yeah,
I want to be on the opposite spectrum of these Satanists, Illuminati. And so, anyway, I don't want to too choked up talking.
That's
but anyway, a couple of years after research, and I couldn't put it off anymore, and I got basically quote unquote saved or reborn or whatever. So I would say I'm a non-denominational follower of Yahushua, which is his Hebrew name. There's no Jesus about it.
Right.
Jesus is like a transliteration of a transliteration
Right.
of Yahoo. And so, but the name Yahushua actually has meaning. Yah means God, basically the Father God,
Yeah.
and Shua means salvation. So his name literally means, in layman's terms, Jesus saves.
Yeah. Yeshua. I
That's
always
where
hear
that
it
comes from.
pronounced Yeshua. Yeah, but that's kind of the
Yeshua is the Aramaic. That's the Aramaic
Oh,
version.
okay.
They would have called him by his Hebrew name, and I've done research the crap about this. Yahushua.
Yahushua.
Okay. The father's name is Yahuwah. So and Yahuwah just means I don't know if you've heard like the great I am and all this.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Stuff. So I am Yah. YAH means I am. That's why when we say I am, Yah is the Father God. When people say I believe in God, I'm like, okay, which God? Because God is a generic term, or Lord is it actually? Lord actually means Nimrod, Baal, Antichrist.
Wow.
So this is all this debate. We're about to put this in my third book, but I'm definitely going to talk about the holy name issue. It's actually a hot button issue if you start looking into that, where you're trying to if you're gonna believe at all or you're gonna worship at all, you might as well give the most respect you can and use their actual names. And we're actually commanded to use the Father God's real name, which is Yahoo, in Exodus, and that just goes right over people's heads. But I got the biblical quotes, and
Yeah,
I got a big case built, so I'm probably actually going to put that at the end of this third book, because it's pretty important stuff, especially with the way society's looking and all the rest of the stuff. So I think that's really an important thing. But the main drive of my third book is the Great Reset, and the pandemic is part of eating the bug is part of the
eats the bugs.
Klaus Schwab.
My God, I talk about a villain right out of freaking Star Wars. I mean, where do you find these people? I mean, like, you can't write this, you can't make this stuff up. It's just like, and of course, there's a lot of and I don't want to get too far into it because I want to talk to you a little bit about your second book, because this is a fascinating subject to me. I'm a recovering Catholic. I obviously, like, I'm a huge fan of Jesus, and I believe that he came into this earth to teach us many things, and that almost everything about his life that he came to teach us has been, basically hijacked and twisted and used for power fear structures, but I very firmly believe in a benevolent God who loves his creatures unconditionally, even the people we're talking about. And I don't buy into this retribution, old man in the sky with the, kind of like this vengeful, I will smite thee. I believe in balance, and I believe that everything is love, and that these things are going to work themselves out, because that's karma, that's the universe, that's the way it works. You know what I mean? You can't continue to do vile shit and think that you're going to get away with it, because what you do attracts back to you. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way things work. Like attracts like. And if you go around making people suffer, then suffering is coming to you, whether you realize it or not, and whether you believe in it or not. That's just the law of resonance. And so your second book focuses a lot on, the Luciferian aspects of these secret societies, the origins of it. And I always try to get to the bottom of this, like how, because in my humble opinion, in my belief system, Satan is a figure that was made up to create fear, right? Because if God created everything, he wouldn't have stopped and been like, you know what are we really missing here? I want to create a being as powerful as me to wage war against me, that everyone can be afraid of and have nightmares about.
And that's not true right there. So Satan is not against God. He works for God. He is an agent of Yah, basically. Yeah. He just got into a little bit of trouble with mankind. That's what the Book of Enoch really gets into. That it's like mankind was such a And I believe, to be quite honest, that Satan was actually primarily responsible for making our third dimension, for making the earth. So I believe in divine evolution, Faust, where I think Satan had to bring life along. I don't believe in like Darwinian evolution at all, but divine evolution, where it's almost like where Satan was leading the angels. This is back when he's, quote unquote, good angel before. The reason he fell was he was attracted to human women, because the Creator God helped him basically get it across the finish line, taking caveman, covered with hair, big old eyebrow, and all of a sudden it's like mankind came out of nowhere about 6,000 years ago. There's like the missing link there between caveman covered with hair, looking like a part monkey, to this basically hairless, incredibly intelligent, incredibly attractive being. And when Yah, the Father God, helped Satan get the missing link connected, mankind, or women especially, were so beautiful to Satan that he's like, I'm going to take human form and I'm going to get me some of that. Basically, that is what happened.
I'll be back in a few years.
Yes, exactly. So the Book of Enoch, it tells exactly that him and all these other angels, like, man,
we're getting in on this. This is bullshit. We help create these, and that's it. I'm punching out, man. Punching out. I mean,
totally.
It's a fascinating story.
And that's what I believe. That's what I believe. I don't know if it's fact or not, but everything I know leads to exactly that, which is in the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about the Book of Enoch. I'm not as familiar with it as I should be, but I also see, a lot of evidence that showcases how the DNA of humanity in this form can be traced back roughly 200,000 years. So I mean, but that doesn't mean that the story didn't go down. It just means that maybe the timeline isn't precise.
As long as they can find the fossils back, the quote unquote humanoids probably were here for that long.
Yeah.
But to get them to the point where, obviously, you and I don't look like cavemen unless we let ourselves go
right,
a little bit or whatever. But there was a big change from what they were and how they lived and their brain capacity and da 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 da.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there's a little push from something or someone to get us from.
Oh yeah, that intervention is real. You can see that right on our chromosomes. There was a fusion that happened, and more and more that science is having a hard time keeping that from the public, because as we get more and more well versed with gene editing, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but we can recognize the genes in us that appear in the same fashion of the genes that we're editing. So it's becoming more and more difficult for them to deny that we've been not tampered with, but designed in a lot of ways. And I think that that's going to become, as more and more disclosure happens, people are going to start
divinely evolved.
Yeah. And that's in my mind, that's evident everywhere. I mean, the fact that we have this incredible, I don't know what you would call it, technology, these human bodies. I mean, you're comprised of 50 trillion cells. Your heart is beating every, you don't have to think about any of these things. If you don't think that there's divine spark in life, then I don't know what you've been thinking about, because it's everywhere and it shows up everywhere, and the pattern of things, if you look at you can find the divine pattern in things, the geometry of the way things are. That's a design. That's a literal mathematical design, and it comes from the Creator, and it's beautiful. The world is beautiful.
That's one of the big things that happened to me after I decided I was going to believe in God and want to be on, Team Jesus or whatever. I had a whole respect for life. Like I used to I'd go fishing, right? You catch a nice big fat trout, pull them up, bash them over the head, throw them in a freaking bucket, right? You're going to catch 5 or 6 of these. After I got saved, I went fishing a couple, 3 weeks after that. I reeled this trout, I don't want to bash it. I had to let it go.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So
No, it does give you a profound appreciation, and I don't, you don't have to be, necessarily, eh, I mean, I'm sure there are atheists out there who have a appreciation. It's just that when you realize how divinely connected life is, it tends to be harder to just snuff it out without a thought. You know what I mean? Like,
It's got God in it. It's got God in it.
yeah,
That's why it's alive. That's the only way it could be alive. I mean, what keeps all of
that's
our
right.
atoms just flying apart? Something's keeping us, together. So,
It's fascinating, man.
like,
So,
how can this stuff keep this shape?
exactly.
Without flying off.
This density, right? And it's the signals that most of us aren't aware of, like this signal that's kind of being beamed in at all times to keep Faust, in this body, right? Because when I go to sleep, what happens to the signal? When I transition to the next great adventure, what happens to the signal? It doesn't go. We know it doesn't go away. I mean, I shouldn't say we know. I guess we don't all know that. There are a lot of Catholics who believe that after that,
You can't kill energy. It just changes.
that's right. I mean,
We're energy. When you die, your energy just doesn't disappear. It goes somewhere.
that's right. The signal remains. It just goes on to the next broadcast, right? I mean, I don't know how Catholics still believe kind of in, like, it's crazy. There's just so much mix up there with how Catholicism was taken by, I love the way you call it, the unholy Roman Catholic, powers.
So Catholicism at its root is Antichrist worship, and Judaism at its root is Saturn worship. That's why the Jews worship on Saturn's day, and the Catholics worship on Sunday, because Nimrod was like the original sun god.
Yeah, and
you'll love my second book, man. So you like there's all kinds of crazy. So like on the cover of that book is the sigil of Saturn, which comes from the occult magic square of Saturn.
Mm.
The V, like the Under Armour symbol.
Oh yeah.
And they love to use these symbols because it's basically you're attracting supernatural power. But if you look at like the Under Armour symbol, that is basically the Freemasonry symbol. The square and compass, that is just the sigil, another variation of the sigil of Saturn, which is a symbol of Satan himself. So, but I'll tell you, like the 666, the number of the beast, blah blah blah, book of Revelation, that comes from the magic square of the sun. If you add up all the numbers of that, it's 666. It's the number of the beast, because he is the original sun god. That's where the number 666 comes from. Yeah, you'll love that second book.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna check it out.
I'm gonna send you paper copies. I'll get your address over off the.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I'll email.
I'm gonna totally send you. I'll send you a couple paper copies, and then my update book. I put it in the paperback also about the pandemic.
Oh yeah, cool,
my take on all that. I'll send you all that stuff. So
that's awesome.
Give me your address. I'll get that in the mail. So
I will. I appreciate it.
you got it, brother.
It's just, I'm always observing this world, and I'm like, it's just amazing to me that this, I mean, like, I get people coming in on my videos, and they come like, I'm a Freemason, man, and it's not about that, and I'm like, dude, I'm sure that's cool, man. I'm sure everyone you hang out with is very cool. I'm sure at the Freemason Lodge, I'm sure that they believe, in that part of, the ideals they espouse, and that a lot of them firmly believe, and why wouldn't they, that what they're doing is good, and but you gotta understand, like, saying, dude, you'll never know. but there are people who do, and who tell,
there's millions of Freemasons, but there's only
like maybe
1,000 or 2,000 33rd degree that really know what's going on, and it's almost like a front. They do good thing. The Shriner Hospital, you had a little kid at Christmas, you got the commercial, the Shriners, those are the 32nd degree Freemasons. But it's just basically up front, so it's almost like a buttress or a barricade.
That's right.
A public space, so you can't get to the the pedo Satanists that are the upper level of Freemasonry.
It just blows my mind, you know what I mean? Because kind of when I grew up, when I kind of grew out of Catholicism, this notion that of an angry God and eternal damnation, it all became laughable to me. And my friends, I was like, yeah, but dude, they, regardless of what it is to you, they believe in it. And so a lot, and only a certain portion of them actually, like, worship the quote devil, because they don't see this entity as the devil. They see him as like the path to becoming gods themselves, becoming enlightened themselves. And while I think that, we should all strive to become enlightened through compassion, what they're doing is they believe they're becoming enlightened through knowledge and through, all these esoteric mysteries. And they use them to keep power and to keep people, in check, literally, to keep them dumb, to keep them from, because if people realize that they had access to the same abilities, then everything that they've built would collapse, because people would just be like, no, we see through your lies and we're not going to participate. So I just think it's fascinating that you have this very small percentage of the world that has most of the power, extremely small, and they believe in this notion of Satan, through all their, they're taught it, they're indoctrinated into it. And
to their family.
Yeah.
That's, and then, within their families, they sexually abuse their kids to like install demons in them, literally. That's why people who are sexually abused go on to become abusers themselves.
Yeah.
Because you're literally passing literal demonic entities down the line that control your urges, your thoughts. Like, people are like, oh, I don't know what came over me, right? But there's, this is real, and the demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. I don't know if you've ever heard that or not.
I've never heard that. No.
So basically, that's where you have devils, which are fallen angels. Demons are the spirits, because you're either part man or part human, part angel. But being part man, when you're born, you have they have some kind of corrupted soul in them. Yah doesn't want these corrupted souls. So I think it's in the Book of Jubilees, he commanded that these corrupted souls are to be held physically within the earth. And those are the demons which torment and test mankind. But,
wow.
And that's where, that's a whole different subject. Eventually, that'll be in a book though too.
Yeah, no, you'll have to put it in a book. It's
a lot of the stuff, but I read a lot of the extra biblical stuff. If you read the book of Jasher, that actually gives an actual timeline you can tie into mankind's Gregorian calendar and stuff.
Yeah.
And I started plugging stuff in along. Anyway, this will be my third book, but basically I came to the conclusion that this entire, I would call it just a test of mankind, is going to come to an end or a head or a conclusion in about 2055 to 2060. Now, when I started looking, now it's using the book of Jasher's timeline, when I started looking into this, Sir Isaac Newton did the exact same thing I did, and our years were within like 5 years apart of this thing coming to a conclusion.
Wow.
When I found that out, man, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. But this will all be in my third book coming up. But I think we're in a bad spot now, and it's about to get worse, brother.
Yeah, that seems apparent, at least for everyone actually paying attention. It's about to get worse. For some people, they'll continue to be shepherded into one corralled fence after the next.
There's a mega financial collapse coming that they won't be able to ignore. So when the dollar dies, that's when the Great Reset is in motion. It started with this pre-planned pandemic. But once the financial stuff kicks in, I think that's actually coming later this year. People are going to have to be like, where's my 401k going? It's going down points every when they stop the stock market for 3 days in a row for crashing, that I believe, that's my prediction, is going to be when the crash is in motion. So
well,
I don't have any stock market anymore. My friends think I'm crazy. I put all my money in the lead and guns and food, basically.
Well, I don't have there's a lot of people who say you're wise.
Yes, a lot of people say I'm foolish too. Like, what are you gonna retire on in 20 years? I'm like, we're probably gonna be in 20 years, buddy.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's scary. I mean, I try to keep a positive outlook, and I know that there are most people are good people. I know that most people would not stand for what's happening if they knew, which is why
Yeah.
I like having people on talk about different aspects of it. Even if I don't believe in or agree with certain aspects of it, I know there's a big problem that needs to be exposed, and you can call it whatever you want. It's the same thing and the same people. And the only way we're going to be rid of it is when enough people wake up and say, we're not going to participate in this madness anymore. Then you have at least a chance at a peaceful revolution, because I think all it would take is for everyone to just say, no, no. What can they do? If the labor force stops, what happens to their society they've built? What happens to the slave debt system? It's got to grind to a halt, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm hopeful. And I do see with the amount of people waking up, and there's always a push and pull going on. That is the nature of this universe. There's a cause and effect. And you see some, it's hard to believe anything you hear, but you do see some headway being made, people exposing what this pandemic was about, the damage being done by the medical interventions that happened. It's all coming out now. I mean, and then it's getting harder and harder for them to put out fires, even with control of the media, because there are some people who just don't realize they're not supposed to be talking, right? And they continue to talk,
Yeah.
and we continue to create avenues for them to speak on and different ways for them to speak that allows them a voice. And so I have faith in humanity. I know it may get darker before it gets better, but I also know that more people than ever are aware of the bullshit and the crimes against humanity that has happened. And so I know that there are minds who are thinking, maybe we should come up with a plan. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody has to be considering, you know what I mean? And there's good people in government, just like even though they're a bunch of bungling idiots, most of them are completely ignorant and they're paid to remain so. And the rest of them are even worse. They know what's happening and are taking money to let it happen or making it happen. But there are some people who, just like in every place, that are good, I think. And those people are going to become more aware and use the power that they're sitting in, I think, or at least I hope. But,
I hope to. I hope to.
Man.
That was part of the motivation for writing that first book. Was like, okay, I'm gonna rally humanity against these people.
Yeah.
We're gonna hang them all, and then we're taking the world back from. But they've run the world since day one, and they're gonna run it right to the end, and they run it into the ground.
That's their plan anyway. Hopefully
They got their underground cities built. They got.
Oh, I know that. I know.
They are prepped. They're prepped way better than we are. But they're planning. They're just going to crash this thing. They're going to go hide in their underground cities for 6 months or a year. Let whoever's left alive when they come back out. That's going to be their. That'll be
We'll ferret them out.
First, but a lot of the people that are going to survive are going to go along with what they want.
No, and they made the mistake, and they continue to make the mistake of, culling the population that's dumb enough to believe them, whereas the rest of us are like, no.
I think they're more worried about those sheep who are just followers. All of a sudden, if there's enough of them, all of a sudden they start following like people like you and me.
Yeah.
That
no doubt.
Problem. To hear all the sheep. So it's going to get real interesting. I mean, in our lifetime, we're going to see some crazy shit.
I know. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited and terrified.
I hear you, man.
But I mean, I prepped about as good as you mean.
Yeah, you seem like you're in a room right now where you're ready.
I am in the war room, brother. This is it, man.
Awesome.
It's funny. Remember that Malheur wildlife refuge siege that happened in Oregon a few years ago?
Yeah.
So we were the main radio guys reporting on that.
Wow.
Pete Santilli was our embedded reporter. We were good friends with him back then. And I had my red lights back then, so we call this the war room. But a lot of people follow me from that, so it'll be interesting to see who shows up in your comment.
Yeah.
Put my name. We had a book in the description or whatever. So
Yeah.
I've got a lot of good people follow me, and I got a lot of haters on my show. So
Oh, I'm sure, man. I'm sure.
see what happens, man.
It just comes with the territory. But before you go, I love going far out with my guests a little bit, and I know you have. It's funny. I saw you mention Dr. Greer in your book, and I like Dr. Greer. I think he's been trying to get the truth out and stop this massive amount of money that's being laundered to these black ops projects, these unacknowledged projects, and I think he's doing a lot of good in the world. But I know that you have your own opinion about some of the things that he's done, and it cross references with a lot of your work. But it's funny. What do you think? What do you think is nefarious about what he's doing?
It's basically preparing people for. You probably have heard of Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't personally believe in quote aliens from other galaxies or planets coming here and tinkering with us. It's my opinion. If that was the fact, they would come down and just say, "Hello, here we are. Here's what's the truth. What's going on." So it's almost like he's helping to condition the public to blindly accept when they simulate an alien.
No, but he's warning the public, though. He's warning them. He's telling them they're going to false flag an alien invasion in order to seize control of the population. That's what he's been saying for 20 years.
But he believes in actual aliens.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I would bet more any aliens you would come in contact with is basically they're fallen devils, fallen.
Oh, so you have that view. So yeah, okay.
Or real or good angels also, because you got both
sure.
kinds of. Because all my life I believed in the. It's weird, Faust. Like all my life, and I've been a total screw up a lot of my life. I got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of drugs, a lot of death situations where I should have died or a friend should have died. And every time I got out of it by the skin of my teeth, and I'm like, how did I get out of that? So I'd always felt like aliens were watching over me to either keep me from killing myself or killing someone else or end up in jail. And then when I got saved, it's like, oh, those were probably angels keeping me from doing that.
Yeah.
As opposed to aliens and spaceships watching me. But I've always felt watched all my life. So we'll see what happens with this.
Yeah.
Go ahead. See what happens with this first book. It's almost like I was put here to put that first book out, and anything else I'm doing is incidental. It's just that first book to really, and it might go by. It started going viral in summer of 2020.
Yeah.
It started going viral on Amazon. It started to shoot up, and they freaking pulled my advertising and wouldn't let me, because I was advertising, trying to shove it through. They said it was too controversial, pulled my advertising, and it just sank right back down. It's always in the top 50,000, 100,000 books on paperback on Amazon, but I mean, it was getting down to like 2,000. And I was actually starting to make money because I worked construction all my life. I went right high school to construction. So I work today. I own a remodeling business, but I work and commute 12 hours a day, and I've got a little bit of time left at the end of the day if I'm not too tired to work on my books and stuff. Now it's part of moving so far away from my work base, so I commute back and forth to where I used to work by Seattle. The money's real good. I make pretty good money, but not the kind where I have money to retire and start writing all these books. But if like my first book ever took off and I had time to dedicate every day to these books, I could crank out tons of books. But it was just that first book. I got it out. I was like giving birth. I'll never write a book that long again. Oh my God. Well, it took me, writing is one thing, editing is a whole different monster. So it took me 2 or 3 years just to edit the thing. In the right order, to make sense, to make the flow. And so, I mean, it's just a huge undertaking.
It's a process, dude. It's not like you came from like a literary background, I mean, you did a great job.
Pretty smart guy. I did good in high school. I was in a bunch of honors classes. I was supposed to go to the University of Washington. My parents got divorced. That's when everything started going a little sideways. But they did a pretty good job. teaching me at Bainbridge High School how to write.
No, man, but you did, but you put the book together, and it's, you can't tell that, that that it's, a self-published, and B, that it's written by someone who doesn't have literary chops.
A carpenter.
You can't tell it's written by a carpenter. Reads it keeps you captivated, keeps you reading. My biggest problem was I was trying to get through the whole book, but I didn't want to skip ahead. I was like, I'm not going to skip this chapter. There's just no way. So I'm like, I'm just going to do the interview where I'm at. I am familiar with a lot of the material, but I want to tell you before I forget, it's most people go from believing in angels to believing in, ETs. And it's so ironic and just amazing to me that you went from believing in ETs to believing in angels. And I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that both, exist, and that they're just different spectrums, different dimensions of energy. But there's, very much like we all have guardian angels, I think there are also an abundance of ETs, for lack of a better word, that are trying to keep these monkeys, us, from destroying themselves, trying to influence the consciousness of people to wake up to the power structure, because free will is an amazing thing, right? Like, if I convince you that the best move for you is to give me all your hard-earned money and to work for me for peanuts, have I violated your free will? Technically, I have not, right? And that's how this structure that they've created remains intact. And I know that this structure is an abomination to human liberty, right? I mean, it's an affront. It's terrible, right? I mean, what we're doing to the world and what we're doing to each other in the name of what? It's certainly not our humanity. It's not our nature. But I just, I wanted to put that out there just for you, because, we always want to make things one thing or the other, and sometimes they're both, right? So I just wanted to share that with you for whatever it's worth, because.
Did you ever get into a George Green at all?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so when I got it, so George Green, he's supposedly was in contact with the Pleiadians, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a couple interesting interviews floating around. Like he's almost like he's fully awake to the New World Order, but he was part of it, and then he got out of it, and then he hooked up with a guy named Billy something or another. But anyway, it's trippy to watch his stuff, in terms of that was kind of back when I was still an atheist, the aliens, but watching his stuff from my belief point at that time, it was phenomenal. So that's another something to I mean, he's a really good talker.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more new age stuff. So
it tends to venture to the new age.
I would just group that into new age. These people mean well, but they're just not quite to where I'm at, where you have to take into the supernatural. I mean, that's believing like everything within the 3D worlds, what they're believing in aliens, that's within the 3D world. And I just couldn't get past thinking that there's other dimensions or supernatural.
Oh yeah.
The supernatural exists until I came to the point where, okay, I believe that, and I believe in God, and I want to be in Team Jesus and all that. I took a totally different road after and I just basically took all that new age stuff and said it's just, naive propaganda, basically. And I watched all.
I think there's a lot to watch. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be gained from some of the new age stuff. Some of it is obviously
it's interesting,
woo, but I think some of it draws on a lot of universal truths, and the notion of enlightenment, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, because usually with enlightenment comes this great compassion. Like the more you expand your awareness, the harder it is not to appreciate God and life. And I just think that these people that we're talking about, they don't, everything is tunnel vision. Everything is indoctrinated. Their belief system is so, they have to become tools for this thing that they've spearheaded, right? And because it's so big that if there's any variation, that person is, they're just kind of like put out of the family. They need all hands on deck to keep this thing running. Because one bad egg could contaminate the whole thing they got going on. So it's just, I understand what you're saying. It's a little fear-based from where I'm sitting, but I respect it. And that's the biggest thing. I think we need to understand that, you don't have to, I don't have to believe exactly what you believe to respect it and to allow you to have your beliefs, right? Like that, they're yours. So I think I wish
overall, between New Age, or Christian, or whatever, I think we all can agree to the agreement that there is a vile conspiracy in place. Is run through the secret societies. That's been run for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your overall. I think we can overall agree that there's bad stuff going on. And them by people who have been running the show for a long time, and from there it definitely branches out. But I think that we can all agree that there's a massive conspiracy in place to basically subvert the world. Called the population.
It's what's happening. It's literally what's happening.
Yeah.
Look around, read the news. It's not a mystery to some of us, but Jeff, it's been real, brother. Listen, I recommend everyone check out Jeff's books. I'm going to get into number 2, and I look forward to getting my copy of number 3, or unless Jeff wants to send me, unless you want to send me copy number 2. But
it feels like the paper of number 3. Oh no, I'll send you book 1, 2, and my update. I put one
cool, man.
Updates 1 through 5 in paperback. But so you just shoot me an email with your address. I'll send that out.
Yeah, I will, man. I will, and I highly recommend. It's a lot of information in there, a lot of good stuff that I've been knee deep in this stuff, and I learned things that I was like, oh damn, I got all these notes made and screenshots. There's some really solid information in there. And Jeff, I appreciate your time. And I know you're real busy with the free time you have getting this book out, and you're doing great work, man, getting the word out, and I appreciate you. And it was a pleasure and an honor to have you on.
It's a pleasure to know you, brother Faust. So I'll come back on and maybe this summer.
Yeah,
in my book, Money, that we'll talk about the Great Reset at length, and let's go have another nice discussion, man. Much love, brother. Respect.
Much love to you, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Adios.